Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new What If. Sorry for being gone for so long. Now, this is gonna be a What If called What If Deku was the Screaming Death? If you don't know what it is, go on Wikipedia or whatever, look up the Screaming Death, and you'll find out. But back into the story. When Izuku was born, he automatically let out a bellowing screech. It almost knocked out everyone in the hospital. Inko and Masashi, they didn't want the child because of its quirk. So, both of them decided to put him up for adoption. And I'm gonna say this, what if Inko and Masashi aren't the greatest parents? And when Izuku was put into the orphanage, it was automatically the person who would be picked on. No one liked him because of how he looked. He had white hair and red. He had white and red hair. His eyes were purely red. Well, the colored part of the eyes anyways. Many years later, when he turned 4, they found out what his quirk was. His quirk allowed him to turn into a dragon. A dragon that is extremely large and dangerous. Even as a human, he can access parts of the dragon. Izuku was happy because he had a quirk, but as soon as he told everyone else, they all automatically were scared because they didn't really like dragons. And one day, when Izuku was just minding his own business, 2 people came up to him and pushed him to the ground. "Hey, freak, why are you even here? Why aren't you in the dump or somewhere else?" Izuku did not fight back. He didn't want to get in trouble. But they weren't having that. They continued to beat him up for some time. And when Izuku went to school, I'm gonna say he still met Bakugo. And after a few years, Bakugo was still a jerk, but more so, because he was jealous that Izuku got a quirk that's cooler than his. So he started bullying me more, calling me a freak, lizard, or freaky eyes. Many years later, one day, I'm gonna say that he's like 7. When he turned 7, he finally snapped. Reason why? Because he almost had a life-threatening injury. The children at the orphanage beat him up real badly, and then he turned into a dragon, the Screaming Death. And he did not have control. He bellowed out in a horrific scream, making everyone there cover their ears, but they were stunned. Zuko went farther and burned and shot tons of fireballs everywhere. The exits were blocked off, and anywhere else would not be possible to get. Izuku trapped them all in the burning building, but he got out, like by tunneling through the roof. No one there had a flying quirk or anything that would allow him to get out of there. So they all were trapped. And the pros came and they were told about what happened. None of them knew who started the fire. They just knew that a fire started. When they took, roll call, they didn't find Izuku. Many of them did not care, but the heroes asked what happened and did anyone see him. They just said nothing. Izuku's point of view. Izuku knew what he was doing, but he couldn't stop himself. He was flying around. Then he went to a mountain and drew and burrowed into it, making many cave systems too confused for anyone to find out, but he could know where to go and where not to go. Izuku spent the rest of his life there, hunting and killing. Izuku did find out how to turn out of his dragon form. He trained himself. For many years, he was declared missing. Not that many people looked for him, only the pros that were told to, and people that just wanted the money. Because they put out, if they could find him, they would get, how much again? I'm saying a random amount, but it is a good amount. And not that, and Izuku, he found a family of his own. He was able to find a few others like him, animals that had a dragon-like look. They looked like him in a way, but he was most strongest. He got their food and everything. Until one day, the Japan decided to find out what was in the mountains, because people who were hiking there reported some weird screeching and screaming and grind and some holes that were not there before. Heroes went there. The heroes that did were Mirako and Endeavor. And what's his name again? Oh yeah, All Might. They all went there to check it out. Mirako found a lot of scales. Why is there scales everywhere? She picked one up and it was extremely tough. It was like steel, but somehow tougher. She reported to the others. All Might and Endeavor were confused. Huh? What do you mean what do you mean it's tougher than steel? It just is. It's tougher. I can barely bend it. Okay. Maybe I should follow these things. I'll meet the rest of you. Let's meet back up at the entrance. Mirako then explores deeper in the cave to see Izuku in his human form, surrounded by a few other dragon-looking animals. Mirako then said in her mind, "Wait, are those the things that did this? How? They're not even big enough. None of them have white scales. Wait a minute, why is there a kid here?" And Izuku is now 14 years old. Izuku barely speaks Japanese anymore. He only speaks in roars. And then Mirako went to see if the kid was hurt. Saw nothing. But when she got closer, then the others noticed her. And then they roared at her. and automatically charged at her. She dodged them, kicked them, but in the commotion they woke him up, Izuku. Izuku turned into his dragon form and looked at Mirako and automatically struck. Mirako barely dodged. Izuku almost bit her in half, and then she reported it, what she was doing. Then she went to her intercom and told Endeavor and All Might to get here. There's some weird. There's some animals here with quirks that are pretty powerful. Endeavor answered, "Why should I care? You can handle them." "Yeah, but there's another one. He's a kid that can transform into a dragon, I think. He's shooting. He really tried to bite me in half. Come here, All Might." All Might automatically was rushing towards Mirako's location, and he buzzed through the walls. But Izuku could feel him coming. He told the rest of them to. He told them all to get out of here. They all listened and went for an exit that goes to the peak of the mountain. Izuku then shot multiple fireballs at Mirako. She barely dodged them. It got burned and got struck by one, but it was only struck on the left arm. Ah, damn it! I need to get out of here. This thing is tough. Before I go, I'll try to see if I can knock it out. Then she automatically tried to kick it, but when she did, it did absolutely nothing. Izuku then wrapped her, then tried to bite her, but then All Might came and punched Izuku in the side of his head, launching him back. But then he automatically was able to recover, and then strike at All Might. All Might was able to dodge all of them pretty easily. And then Endeavor came, trying to burn him alive. But none of their attacks were doing anything. And then it's called again. Yeah. Then Endeavor tried to do one of his moves, but didn't do anything. Then Izuku just shot a rapid amount of fireballs to all of them, hitting Endeavor in the face, blinding him temporarily, and firing multiple at the others, and shooting spines at them. Then he burrowed into the ground, automatically trying to escape. They automatically followed him. And after 20 minutes of fighting and trying to get him, they finally were able to capture him. Even then, he was still struggling. I mean, they were even struggling to keep him down. They called for backup, and then Izuku broke free. It was about to fly away until Ryuku came in and shot fire at him. I don't know if she can shoot fire, but I don't say she can in this one. We know this what if. And then Izuku automatically roared at her and shot a lot of spines and fireballs. In the midst of it, she was hit by a lot of them. She was hit in the face. So, yeah. She was temporarily blinded. Then he tried to escape, but it was no use. They got a Razorhead there, and he was able to deactivate his quirk. Izuku was falling, but luckily he was over a pond. And landed in the pond. They restrained him, and they took him for questioning. He didn't answer any of the questions. How he got there, why was he there, and who is he? Izuku decided to answer their questions after a long while. He told them how he got there. He started a fire. He doesn't know if anyone died or lived. He relatively didn't care about them. They didn't care about him, so he didn't care about them. They asked, "Who are you?" once more. He smiled and said in a deep voice, using the voice of his skull, his screaming death form.
Izuku is my name. Midoriya is my last. Well, that's what I'm told anyways. I was left in an orphanage. I was never told why or who brought me there. But I was treated horribly there. I did not have any friends. Instead, I became an outcast until one day I snapped into a snake work unintentionally and burned the place to the ground. I don't know if anyone died, lived, or got serious injuries. I don't care. They didn't care about me, so why should I care about them? So tell me this, why should I even listen to what you will say to me?
All of them were shocked of how deep his voice was. Those who were afraid took a few steps back in fear. Izuku smiled. And then they wanted to see what he could do. So they asked him, "Why don't you become a hero instead of living in the forest? You will have a home, food, and a place to sleep." Izuku thought about it and agreed, but on one term. He gets to visit his family whenever he wants. They asked him who his family was. He told them that it was the animals that raised him. They showed him how to survive. He can speak many languages of animals now. He can understand them perfectly. Izuku agreed to their terms afterwards, but roughly, he would still barely care about anything else. And then I'll say that the 10 months training, it took him that long to find him, and it was only 1 week away. They told him, well, the entrance exam is coming up in a week. Just have to wait 1 week, then you go to come, I guess. Izuku agreed, and 1 week later, Izuku was there. Izuku was not nervous. When he walked into the place where they take their thing, he was not nervous. He didn't mumble or anything like that. Instead, he was more cocky than anything. Not to a level of Bakugo. He doesn't really care about the safety of others. He just wants to have a good fight. When he saw Ida about to speak up about the other figure, he automatically put his hand on his shoulder, squeezing it to an amount that it would slowly make him go back into his seat before he could even get a chance to talk. And then President Mike explained of what the zero pointer was. Ida was satisfied to know that it wasn't a mistake made from UA. And now the battle Now the physical exam. Izuku was at the front gate. He went to the front. Before he could go completely, Ida came back in and said, you are trying to distract that girl, aren't you? I will not allow you to do that such. He stuttered as Izuku started to crush, um, squeeze Ida's hand. He was slowly cracking the bones. Ida told Izuku to release him, and he did. He just went to the front. He didn't notice anyone. No one wanted to go in his way. Then Izuku turned into, and then as soon as the gates cracked open, he automatically turned into his screaming death form. Then he automatically charged through the door, destroying 1-pointers, 2-pointers, and 3-pointers, eating them, throwing spines at them, melting them, everything. And before anyone could, and all the students there said, everyone there said, "Hey, he's cheating. He should be eliminated." President Mike screamed out, Don't you know there's no countdown in a real fight? Follow that kid's example. Go, go, go!" And then they all ran out. But this before they could do anything, half of the robots were destroyed. They saw them scattered about with spikes, with spikes in a lot of them, bite marks in others, and some are melted. A lot of them were scared of what he was able to do in just a couple of seconds. Others were shocked of what he's capable of. And then they tried to find any surviving robot. Then they heard a screech that made them all cover their ears in pain. Then they saw him, Izuku in his dragon form. A lot of them were scared of what he looked like. And then a few of them thought he looked cool. 10 minutes have gone by. The entrance exam is almost over. Izuku was just sleeping on top of a building. Actually inside of a building. Because he bit a hole in the wall inside of a building, inside the rest in there for the remaining time. Then Izuku felt and heard the ground shaking and buildings collapsing. Izuku felt something that was pretty big, something that could actually entertain him. He dug out of the building and saw the 0-pointer. Everyone else was running, and
What a bunch of cowards. I'll just finish it off myself.
shooting a barrage of fireballs and spikes while he was charging in to bite off its head. The 0-pointer punched him, but it didn't even affect him. Then he went to its head and bit it off. Then he noticed someone being trapped underneath some rubble. He decided to be nice for once and actually lift it up. He just bit off the rubble and ate it, and then just turned back in human form, picked the girl up, and then it gave her to a recovery girl because the test was over. The girl thanked him, but he didn't really care. he just said, "Mm, don't mention it." And then he just went off. Then he just went back to his home in the mountains. His family went back as soon as they smelled his scent. "Hello, guys. I'm glad to be home. And by the way, I'm not gonna be around so much." They asked him why. He said, I'm going to be in a school." A lot of them said, "What? Why?" Izuku said, the heroes caught me, and they said if they convinced me to come here. And plus, I was bargaining with a couple of things. Here's another thing. Actually, here's something I did not mention in that moment, but it was to tell him to leave his family alone, and for them to get him food every single day here. To get him food whenever he wants. Then a truck full of fish came close to the mountains. His family was about to charge it, but he said no, it's alright. It's the food I ordered them to give us whenever I want. They were happy. Then they all ate. Then they got something to eat. 1 week later, Izuku was Izuku got his invitation to UA. He said, it was bound to happen. That was pretty. I did get a lot of points. He got 135. Actually, I don't know how much he got for hero points, like say for that amount. He was happy. And Grant said, I guess it begins now. I'll see what my challenges are gonna be there. Okay, that's the end of this. What if?